Let's move on to tonight's stories. The growing trend of Ponzi schemes and panic withdrawals in the financial sector has left the Securities and Exchange Commission SEC with no option but to stiffen enforcement of regulations. Director General of SEC, Reverend Ugbami Tete, says from now on, players in the capital market will be severely dealt with and even barred from operating so as to regain confidence in the sector. He was speaking at the 2018 Capital Market Week in Accra.
Concentrated on best ways of regaining trust in the capital market. Director General of SEC, Reverend Ugbami Tete, warned players against enriching themselves at the detriment of customers.
The issue of mis-selling and misinforming prospective and existing clients. This is typically done through personal selling as well as advertising using mass media and social media. It's important for all market operators to understand that you can neither lie to investors nor misinform them. Lying to investors and misinforming them are considered to be serious breaches, and the Commission will respond without any equivocation.
The Finance Ministry and the Bank of Ghana have so far accelerated moves to deepen banking regulations by weighing heavy on weak banks in the system. Ken Oforiatta is Finance Minister.
Decisions have saved some jaws, assured depositors of their money. In the course of this year, we'll ensure that the financial sector is cleaned up fully and healthy, and that the sector is much better positioned to support credit and economic transformation. But we must have a total cleanup as we exit the IMF, so that next year we'll enter it with a new ball, with just a new sense of purposefulness.
The 2018 Capital Market Week was themed the role of good governance in the transformation of Ghana's capital market. The three-day forum ends on Friday, August 26th.
Now, President of the Chamber of Mines, Eric Subonting, is appealing to government to pay attention to the manufacturing sector in order to support local businesses participate in the supply of inputs in the mining sector. Data from the Minerals Commission indicates that the proportion of inputs procured exclusively from local manufacturers has declined from 78% in 2014 to 63% in 2017.
Under the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703, and the Minerals and Mining General Regulations 2012, it is required, among other things, that mining companies procure inputs from Ghana to the maximum extent possible, consistent with the economy's safety and efficiency. Although the statute enhanced local content participation, recent challenges in the manufacturing sector has led to a decline in inputs procured. Speaking at a forum held by the Ghana Chamber of Mines, the president of the chamber, Eric Subonting, urged manufacturers to step up their performance to enhance revenue retention locally.
It makes business sense to procure your inputs or your key inputs from within the country. You look at the value chain, or I would say the lead time for importing some of these items. It takes longer. If it does take longer, then it means you have to lock up a lot of money in terms of your stock. If you can procure some of these inputs from within the country, you have a shorter lead time. You don't have to lock up a lot of money in terms of keeping a high value in stock. So it does make business sense, but whilst doing that too, then we know that we are helping the economy, the local economy, in a way in terms of the multiplier effect, because those manufacturers would also employ people, they will also pay taxes and so on and so forth.
For some local manufacturers, there's still the need for more support from government. Kingsley Letcher is the marketing manager for Nexan Cable Metals Ghana Limited.
The market is now a global market where all kind of people from all sorts of countries are trying to sell into the country. So it doesn't make sense for us to be producing uncompetitively at higher cost. We need to first look at the cost buildup of manufacturers, give them incentives, maybe raw materials, import duties and taxes, give some waivers that will help us to produce in order to compete. If we're able to do that, we can scale and be able to export some of what we produce. But currently, as it stands, a lot of what we do, the cost is very high, and we need to look at it. Secondly, there is a local content policy that governs procurement in mining sector. What we need is it to be implemented and enforced.
Sheila Tamaklu for Joy Business.
You're watching Business Live. We're taking a short break. There's more after this break.
You're still watching Business Live, and to our big story tonight, the General Agric Workers Union, GAU, says cost of food will shoot up in the last quarter of the year. General Secretary of the union, Edward Karewa, says despite numerous agric interventions by governments, farmers are still facing high costs of production. The effects of this trend, he reveals, will see cost of food soar, especially in Accra.
According to the General Agric Workers Union, GAU, farmers across the country are reeling from the hike in fuel prices. General Secretary of the union, Edward Karewa, says farmers continue to accrue losses whenever prices are adjusted upwards. Passing on the cost to consumers, he says, has been the decision by farmers between now and December.
We should expect high prices because prices are a function of a number of things. It's not only about production. And then in any case, even when farmers produce enough, it goes to waste because the post-harvest loss is still huge. Fuel prices have gone up. I think about a month or so ago, fuel prices went up, and it has gone up again. And transportation will go up. It's only sometimes when it is trotro and those passenger ones that you need the statutory bodies like GPR to sit down and fix the price. But if it is cargo, they decide on their own. So cargo is the one that actually brings the food from the farm gate to the market. And those costs will go up, transport costs will go up, and then it will translate into the prices.
So far, government.
The Planting for Food and Jobs program has distributed more than 15,000 seeds in 2017 and 2018. This has resulted in a bumper harvest despite the fall armyworm invasion. More than 80 warehouses are currently being built to store excess food.
The yields were fantastic. For instance, maize, as a result of the bumper harvest we had from 2017, the rest of 2018, we haven't imported a grain of maize into the country. And that's an indication that the seed that was given, because the improved seed that was distributed, yields were doubled. Traditionally, 1 acre of maize using traditional seed would have given you 3 bags. But with the improved seed, you can get about 10 bags per acre. And that was impressive. And that is a success story we have today, that production was increased, and as such,
there were no imports. Did you store some, or did you export some?
Yes, the ministry again had to revive the National Buffer Stock Company.
All right, we're still staying on this development, and joining me in the studio for an update on prices of food on the various markets is the content manager at Isoko, Francis A.J. Danso. So, Francis, you're welcome. Clearly, in the word of the ministry as of that against GAU, what are your findings?
So, indeed, there have been some increases in the volumes of some of the commodities that we cultivate within the country, especially maize, yam. If you go to the market right now, you realize that prices of those commodities are really on the low side, and farmers...
That's maize and yam. Why is it so? Why are they so low?
Because the volumes in terms of the harvest, the harvest that they made are a lot, and so all of them have been sent onto the market,
right? And
that is driving down the prices.
Okay, so I was going through your 2018 the September figures, and you realize that you mentioned clearly that the prices of yam and maize are going down just because you're still harvesting, but other commodities are expected to go by. What are some of the indicators that will cause the hike in these prices?
Those commodities that are going to go up are commodities that, as it were, we've not harvested within the country yet. And so they are still under cultivation. And we expect that the ones mainly in the north will come on stream somewhere November and December, getting to January, and so that will help stabilize. But the ones down south have been harvested, and then that is what is driving some of the prices down.
So the fear of the General Agricultural Workers Union is that we are going to see food prices going up. Do you sense that on the ground from what you've been doing? Do you sense that on the ground?
So I'm inclined to go with them because we are just about compiling. We started compiling our data for the month of October.
Right.
And we realize that as at now, we have about 0.38% increase in the price of maize. And so, yes, I'm inclined to go with them that some of the commodities may rise, and this is due to the fact that we are getting towards Christmas.
What are some of the key commodities that we are likely to see go up?
So, yam may increase.
Okay.
Because now, all the harvests that came in, a lot of them were brought onto the market.
Right.
Some of them couldn't get sold, and so they got rotten. That has increased the volumes that are on the available on the market now. Same goes to maize. Now they've now started drying the ones that were harvested this year. And so within that period, we expect that because it is getting to Christmas, some of them will hold back on the stock.
They're going to hold the stock.
Yes.
Right. And so comparing same season, let's say last year to this year, will you say we've performed better than last year, or we are still not there?
So when we come to 2018 and then 2017, that is the third quarter, because that is what we have data. We are still compiling for the last quarter. You realize that around the third quarter of 2017, the prices that went down, if you compare, you realize that cassava went down, yam went down, and then tomatoes also went down. But the situation is changing because now tomato has begun its ascendancy, and so it is moving up now.
Right.
Yes.
So you clearly say we are doing better now than last year. Is that what it's supposed to be? Or?
If you compare so around this period, we have 4 commodities that the prices are lower compared to that of last year. But all the others, the prices have gone.
But this is periodic. What can we do differently to be able to stop prices going up every time?
We need to change some of the ways that we do our things. How we plant, how we store, and then how even our markets are designed.
Francis, it's a pleasure having you for this discussion. We'll definitely visit this issue back. Let's move on to the Joy Business Van. And investing a whole year's allowance in the purchase of 4 pigs may not be the priority of an average national service personnel, but for Maxwell Hammond, those were the first steps in his dreams job. Currently, with over 100 pigs, the Tilly's farm, I must say, Maxwell is actually living his dream. Let's go for the Joy Business Van.
Venturing into agriculture has always been Maxwell's dream. It, however, came as no surprise to friends and family when he invested all his earnings from his national service into pig farming. Starting off with a supply of fresh and grilled pork, Maxwell combined produce from a small farm and supply from other farmers to support production. However, this success story was short-lived as Maxwell began to face challenges.
I saved up my whole allowance and bought 4 pigs. That's how come I started Tilly's farm. And I gave it to someone who had a farm already, and then I'll pay him to look after the pigs and all that. Along the way, I heard about the National Business Plan competition at the time. I entered it, general category winner. I won $25,000 cash, and then $10,000 in business development services. So, yes, I got a huge piece of land, 42-acre land, which I was going to build my dream farm. And I had all these romantic ideas of having a nice farm and then having my cottage, and then I'm going to grow my family and everything on the farm. And then we know how the land tenure system in Ghana is, and I lost the land, and it was a huge blow to me.
After what looked like a failed business, Maxwell joined GIZ Ghana. As an assistant, He earned a good pay and had the opportunity to travel around the world occasionally. However, after 10 years, Maxwell felt the urge to go back to his first love, farming.
So I found myself an internship role at the German Agency for International Development, GIZ. And then after my internship, they wanted me to stay on. So Tilly's farm was basically put on ice. And then I worked there for almost a decade. And then 2 years ago, to October 2016, I presented my resignation. And then I came back to pig farming full-time.
2 years down the line, and Maxwell says he has no regrets. From 4 pigs, he has grown his farm to about 150 pigs. With 2 outlets, one in Kokom, namely, and the other in Osu, Tilly's farm provides grilling services as well as variety of pork chops.
The Thai goes a lot for our local or Ghanaian. A lot of people ask for pork chops, but the Thai also comes highly recommended. Okay. So I know for those who like their pork, like myself, we like to chew the meat, not to have a lot of bone. So with the Thai cut, we slice it nicely. There's just a bit of bone in the middle, and it's all meat around it. So that sells well. Our smoked pork is also very popular. We recently had a promotion, and then people wiped it out.
The journey has been a fruitful one, although bumpy, with some challenges, including the inability to insure his pigs.
But then my highest risk as a pig farmer is not my structure getting collapsed. What's the probability of my pig structure? Because I have permanent structures. We have concrete and brick. I'm not using temporary structures. That's breaking. The probability is lower than me having an infection enter my stock, my head, and then wiping them out. So imagine I have pigs, even 100 animals, value each one at a minimum of 500 cedis, and then I get such a disaster. It wipes them off. There's no insurance that takes care of it. I have to start from scratch.
For most startups, the ultimate goal is to expand and export, but not for Max, as he says there's more demand to meet in Ghana.
For me, it doesn't make sense for me to export when we are not able to feed ourselves. We have a 90% meat production deficit in Ghana. We only produce 10% of the meat that we consume. So why should I go into farming for livestock thinking about exporting when 90% of what we consume is coming from outside? My aim will be, how can I contribute to push that to 80% so that 20% is here? Am I able to do that? Are the financial institutions ready to play their role to support me do that? I don't think so.
All right, that was the story of Tilly's farm. Do you like pork?
That was appetizing as well.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like pork? I love pork. Well, thanks for watching this edition of Business Live. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. There you see in your short 4 practical ways to repair a brand's post-crisis image. You want to read more on that, visit our website, myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Daryl Kwao.
And my name is Sandra Esenamafe. Do enjoy your Wednesday evening.
We'll see you later.